Well, because no, not in a long time. No, we have in the past, but not in a long time. Some of these seats have been open, been vacant for a year or more.
Well, and I feel with, not trying to say anything wrong, but I feel like with a lot of this institutional knowledge fixing to go out the door, it's more imperative that we do the right thing on this. That's the reason why I just said, let's have a public hearing. I don't have no problem with a 5-member board, but we're gonna have to set it up before we know it's representative of all the different avenues in Franklin County. So, I mean, that's why I put
And we
a
need
motion
to
out.
have an attendance policy.
Well, we have it, but the problem is.
Well, you have to enforce it.
And that's where.
It's great to have rules, but if you don't enforce them, they're non-existent, basically.
Well,
Yeah, them people ain't getting paid, it don't matter where you're posting.
Well, if you want to volunteer, you volunteer. If you don't volunteer.
well, my thing is, we had the alternate, and even the alternates couldn't show up.
Well,
So-
admittedly, an alternate doesn't want to show if they're not going to be able to participate and drive all the way from a certain part of the county. That's been a real problem.
Usually your alternate's there for you, make a quorum,
I know,
so.
but the alternates.
I know.
stop showing.
You gonna have a, public hearing?
We done, I got a motion in a second.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, let's have a public hearing, yeah.
And at the time, like Michael said, we'll outline everything and do this, and then we can meet the public hearing
All right.
Maybe
requirement
if we give them
also.
something to give them something to be an incentive to be on it. What
Well, my
about that?
predecessor, once a year, would cook them hamburgers. They have a party.
All
Well,
right.
you're retiring, so you can take up the entertainment section of the P and Z meetings.
The problem
That'd
is,
be
the only thing I'm
a
allowed
good
to,
community service for you in the future, Alan.
the only thing I'm allowed to do in the kitchen is wash the dishes, so I get somebody else to bake something. Okay, so, you get a vote yet?
Yeah,
Now we have a motion and a second.
We need a vote.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And we got some good news aboard at this, inform the board that the sale of Ellis Court property is set to close on Thursday, August 20th. The board's share of the cost is $124,400, with another $600,000 coming from the federal grant. And Alan, you saw that check this morning.
Yeah, I just want to.
You get a copy?
For once in my life, I can hold up something that says.
Hold it
This
up.
piece of paper is worth its weight in gold, because this is worth $600,000 in the purchase of the Ellis Court. So we will be going to August 20th, which is Thursday, to make the deal, and we will buy the property.
Don't forget to put that in the bag.
It's in the bank. This is the
Don't take that with you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I have an item on my report that involves Ellis Court. There are two issues that I need approval from the board on. It's item number 4. I will not go back through the facts because they've just been related to you by Mr. Pierce and Mr. Morone. But I do need board approval for the chairman to sign the closing statement, a copy of which has been provided to you in my report, and also an authorization for the clerk of court to wire the closing funds to the title agent in Tallahassee.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It will be over time, some additional expenditures of money that was budgeted, or is budgeted, because we have to do a reforestation project. The land is purchased for passive recreation and reforestation. We'll recreate what they call a marine hammock, is the top terminology now, an oak grove along the shoreline,
Maritime Oak.
maritime.
Move right along.
Yes, sir. Mr. Weiss of the SHIP program is asking the board, for board action to authorize the chairman's signature on the SHIP program annual report and the local housing incentive certification.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor, all in favor? Yeah, all opposed? Motion carries.
Next item, board action to authorize the chairman's signature on a resolution expressing support for the Northwest Florida Estuaries and Watersheds Project. Mr. Pierce has been in discussion with other affected counties, and they also have their own version of this resolution that they support. Copies attached.
Yeah, all the 8 counties in the Panhandle, this is something the Native Conservancy has been working on for a couple of years. I'm in some of the meetings, some of you all may have been in some of the meetings. This is an effort to get money out of one of the other pots. This is not local money, this is the 8 counties trying to bind together with the Nature Conservancy's guidance to create watershed projects which supersede county boundaries and which make us eligible for one of the other pots. And so this resolution shows support. All the other counties have adopted a similar one, so we're doing
So moved.
Have a motion on the floor? Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion second, all in favor? All opposed, motion carries.
And oh, you go.
Well, I was gonna do one more thing. I was on a conference call yesterday afternoon regarding the Triumph. I just wanna give you an update on Triumph. Triumph is this is a product created by the Florida legislature for which a certain amount of economic damage money from the BP settlement will go into this Triumph Fund. The Triumph Fund was created by the legislature and is gonna be controlled by the legislature. There was an initial meeting, is actually going on this morning in Escambia County. Most of the 8 counties couldn't make it, so we had a conference call yesterday afternoon to talk about what's gonna happen this morning, very little this morning. And Warren Yeager is the
Chair.
Committee of 8, which is, the Committee of 8 is a subset of the consortium. I didn't realize this, subset of the consortium, and so the consortium has some play in the Triumph Fund anyway. But the Committee of 8, representing the 8 counties, we're trying to make sure the legislation is not changed, because right now the Triumph Fund will get a considerable amount of money, assuming the BP settlement goes forward. But that's being held, dominated by the legislature. This coming 2016 legislature, if they change the structure of the Triumph Fund, it could seriously change the way we see funds. So in our legislative delegation meeting, which you're going to have sometime soon because of the way the legislature meeting, that's something we need to reinforce with our legislators. Don't change the structure of the Triumph Fund. It'll be competitive for us, but at least we're part of the 8. If they change it, it might make it more competitive for everybody else.
That's what I'm worried about, it being more competitive for the other people involved. And
It's going to be a big fight.
it's gonna be wide open.
That's the deal that Senator Gatz set up,
Yes,
isn't
that's
it?
correct.
Yes.
That's correct. And he's a big proponent right now of keeping it the way he is. He's speaking this morning over there. I don't expect to be too many more meetings because there is no money in the Triumph Fund right now. There won't be until the BP settlement is approved by the state and then the legislature acts. So I just want to give you an update on the Triumph Fund, that it's there. They're starting to get organized, but I don't see a lot of activity until we know what the legislature's going to do this year.
Is Mr. Yeager gonna bring to the forefront that Tuesdays are a bad day to have
Yes,
any
they already
meetings?
did, Commissioner.
Yes.
They actually did.
Every time you turn around, it's on a Tuesday.
Yeah, they-
The University of West Florida set this meeting up, and apparently they didn't realize that we don't meet on Tuesdays.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, they wanna keep us up.
I will, that's.
In addition, Commissioners, there are some other things going on. The Triumph meeting was today, had that call yesterday. We have a meeting with Dewberry on Thursday. We have another conference call in the afternoon. I just want to inform the board that I asked Alan to kind of take over on those calls and deal with the restoration, kind of.
I'll be glad to do it until you all get a.
Yeah, and he's gonna set it up until the board makes a decision as to which way they wanna go with the restore coordinator, okay? He'll act in that capacity for a while and report to you guys at every meeting.
Okay.
Okay, I guess we're at the final one, aren't we? Item 16, the board has, informed the board they received the biannual status report for the Resort Village Development. No further action is required, and you have a copy of that attached to your report. And we get that every year, I think it's something that's required.
I'm going to hand out now, this is a copy of Mike Cooper's afternoon, and this, your color folder, it's all the same.
What is, can I say something, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, you sure can.
What this executive order from the governor, other than these pretty words, what it mean? What-
But we're
what
ready
can-
certified, it helps us with, you mean item 1? It helps us that we don't have to provide match amounts for different projects that we do, in essence, like FERDAP. You know, we could go over the 50. Whether they fund anything over 50,000, that's another story, but we won't have to provide a match to it.
This is a redesignation, Commissioners. We've had this designation for a while, but it lapsed
Actually,
for about 6 months.
yeah, it lasted the first of the year.
And
It
the
sure
governor
did.
finally reappointed it.
Yeah,
Did us in about 6 other counties all the same.
so it has with matching it.
I'm just, Mr. Chairman, I've got one thing, not for Michael, but for Alan. Get back up here, Alan. I want to know something. How was your semi-retired vacation?
It was great. I practiced retirement, and it worked out very well, so I think I'm ready to do it full-time. So I had a good time, and I enjoyed it all, and I'm glad to be back here. I will say that we had a homecoming of sorts when I got back here, that Ms. Lori Hines, as I knew her, Ms. Powers, was working for the clerk 27 years ago when I started with the board, and here she is back. It was a great surprise, a great pleasure to see her back here, and gone full circle now. So it's I feel very satisfied to see Lori back here. And I will say, when she tells you, Commissioners, the motion is this, she's usually right. I learned that the hard way.
Let me just ask you one question, Alan. Is there anything that the board can do to help you transition into your retirement?
I'd like to be able to transcend, but maybe just transfer. I think Mike Monroe's doing a fine job. I think it's working very well. It's sort of, this transition worked a different pattern than I was expecting, but I think actually it's worked out better. I think Michael's done an excellent job of learning things, and my role really is to sit in the background as I'm doing, what I should be doing anyway, and letting Michael, ask me questions when he needs to. But no, I'm satisfied that things are going along smoothly. And if I were started working part-time, it's not quite as much part as I wanted to. I knew these next few weeks coming back, I'd be here more, but no, I hope to be down to 20 hours a week pretty shortly.
You wouldn't let me touch that check though, for some reason.
Yeah, there's some things I want to keep my hands on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Thomas Schuler.
All right, sir. Item number 1, this is a request for the board to rescind the abandonment of Austin Street and Weeping Street at your last meeting. As you can see, attached to the report are a set of minutes from your 1981 board meeting where you had already abandoned those 2 streets.
Those are the ones with the church over there?
Yeah, these are the 2 streets for the church over on St. George Island. If you recall from the public hearing, both from myself and from Mr. Armstead, there's been a belief that these roads had previously been abandoned, but no evidence of that had been located, unfortunately, until after the public hearing, and then a copy of the minutes from June 1981 showing the abandonment of those 2 streets, basically 35 years ago, had already occurred. And so just to clean the record up, I was asking the board for a motion to rescind the abandonment of those 2 streets from your August 4th, 2015 meeting.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
I just want to put out a comment here, Mr. Chairman. If y'all will refer to the minutes of the meeting in 1981, Commissioner Kendrick seconded the motion, and that was my daddy. So you talking about full circle? It is full circle. Yeah, one of the times.
Yes, ma'am. Item number 2, I'm presenting to you a proposed amendment to your existing landfill escrow agreement. I've attached to you a redlined copy of that amendment as well as a clean version. Long story short, since the original adoption of that policy in 1991, there have been some amendments made to the rule governing this escrow agreement. The purpose of the escrow agreement is part of the fees that the board imposes at the landfill are placed into an account, and that account is to be used to expend monies for either the closure or maintenance of the landfill. In 1991, that policy required that the monies be deposited with an SBA account. The new rule allows you to deposit money not only in the SBA account, but also in an FDIC insured account. This change in the rule is not something that's happened recently. It's happened years ago. And so that right now you have a situation where you have some monies in the State Board of Administration account, some monies that are also in an FDIC insured account. So what we're doing is cleaning up the rule, your policy to fold in all of the allowable accounts that the rule now allows you to deposit those funds into. You have also been allowed to expand some of the uses of those funds. Used to, it was limited strictly just to closure and maintenance. There's also a provision in the current rule now where if after your annual audit, you have excess funds in that account beyond what are necessary for either closure or maintenance or even corrective actions, you would be allowed under certain circumstances to take those excess funds out, use them from other purposes. In 1991, perhaps the rule required that the clerk act as the trustee of this account. The current rule does not require that, so I have removed the requirement of the clerk as the trustee of this account. I've discussed this with the clerk. She's got no issues with these amendments. So unless the board has any questions for me, I would recommend approval of the proposed amended landfill escrow agreement.
Motion to approve, Mr.
Second. Have a motion second on the floor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Item 3 and 4 have already been resolved.
Yeah.
The last action item I have is on what's known as the Doc Myers Commercial Site Plan. I had 2 items to bring to the board's attention. First is that the advisory ethics opinion has been returned, and Commissioner Parrish does not have any problems with voting, so he can vote and act on this particular application. And also, I was requesting board action on my recommendation that you retain David Theriak as an outside counsel to represent the board in this matter.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Can I ask the question? Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
When is it set to be back on the agenda, the Doc Myers plan?
I don't set the agenda, so I don't know.
That's what I was asking.
Why even with Mr. Terry, now we know who it is.
So I guess
Okay.
we'll clear the schedules and get with the.
Let's get it on there and get this going as fast as we can, get it solved.
Okay. Does the board have any other questions for me on just the informational items in my report?
Any more questions for Mr. Schuler? Thank you, Mr. Schuler.
I've got another item that's been brought to my attention this morning, Your Honor.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'm in the courtroom too. We have received, and I believe I have forwarded to the board members, a copy of a demand letter from a law firm in Tallahassee. This is they're calling on, or writing on behalf of a property owner near the Carabel Beach area. And they have put the county on formal notice that at least a portion of the bike path that was constructed from the Carabel Beach Park to the lighthouse is apparently encroaching on private property. We want to bring this to the board's approval or notice at this time, and also inform the board that we have notified the engineer of this issue as well. So at this point, we will be turning this over to our insurance company for them to open the file up on a potential claim.
okay.
With that, I have nothing further for the board.
All right, well, thank you. Any commissioner comments? Any commissioner comments? Any public comments?
Good morning, Commissioners. Alan Pfeiffer, Concerned Citizens of Franklin County. I wanted to ask the board if there's a policy in regards to employee use of social media while on duty.
There is not. I don't believe so. I think we have a ban that does not allow them to use cell phones and things of that nature while they're driving, but the board had considered a social media policy, I don't know, about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, but it was not adopted.
The reason I ask this is I've received a couple of calls from county employees over the last year, one as recently as last week, stating that it's a significant problem and waste or sometimes you can't get to a computer because people are updating Facebook and whatnot. There are articles out there that discuss that how companies and businesses are losing between 10 and 30% of their work hours per day with people who have access to computers, and wondered if this was something that begs for a policy, and even possibly blocking the social media sites for county computers, which would be a relatively easy thing to do. Wanted to see what your comments might be.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think that county employees should be making Facebook posts during county business time when they're on the county clock, because that's personal, and if they want to do that on their lunch break, that's fine. But you can look at some of the various Facebook posts and see if they're posted during county business hours. I think constitutional officers, from what I've heard a little bit of talk about, is that they have their own rules in place, and I'm not sure that, Mr. Schuler can straighten me out if I'm wrong on this. I think constitutional officers maybe have to do have their own round to rule over, but as far as us, then county employees are subject to, our rules and regulations, and for my part, I would prefer, if we need to have a public hearing or whatever, I think we do need to have a rule that addresses social media.
His question was specifically, is there a social media policy? The answer to that is I don't think so, but there are other and important rules embedded within your existing employee handbook that would otherwise address this. I mean, it's waste, it's sloth. You can't be
Yeah,
wasting.
as
you
a
can't be doing
department, I
that
banned
all
it
the
in my
time.
department. My employees are not allowed to go on Facebook
Right,
during working hours. I just, they're not allowed.
Your department heads have the existing tools to be able to address this if it needs to be addressed. I don't think there's anything, unless it's, it's
Oh,
your
okay.
pleasure if you want to have
All right.
a social media policy, but there
Well,
are
if I
existing
have it,
rules
we
in
ban
place,
it, so
but
you cannot
your
do
department
that.
heads can take care of that.
May I suggest that we don't know if there is a problem, so maybe the first thing to do would be to ask whoever handles your IT here to look at various social media websites and see the usage, how many, we can actually, I know in our company, and I believe in most companies and government agencies, you can see how many page views and how much time is actually spent on these sites, eBay, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, all of them. And if it's not a problem, then it's not a problem. But if you find out that thousands of hours a month are being wasted by going to these sites, then it begs for a solution. And I don't think that I'm asking for a solution today. I'm asking that the analysis be undertaken to see if it is a problem.
You're our IT advisor, so.
Here's the problem now is that you're saying block it on county computers. What about say if they use their personal smartphone to do it? I mean, and how do we get into their site to see how they've been posting?
Well, we couldn't do that.
Well, I don't think you care what they're posting. You want to know if the county is purchasing bandwidth and is having to purchase additional bandwidth to support usage of non-approved applications.
Yeah.
And just to know if there's a problem is to start out and see how many page views and how much time is physically spent on a monthly basis at these various sites.
Do you have a way of doing that? Is that easy?
That's software we'd have to purchase and install on everybody's computer to kind of see how that's done on the county's computer.
Your gateway should be able to record all these stats.
Can you go into somebody's personal phone and pull that up?
No.
I mean, okay.
No, this should be, your bandwidth is IP-based, and you can get reports on your IP traffic
Yeah,
without
I'll have to talk to
buying,
Fairpoint.
without buying software.
We use Fairpoint for our DSL, so that's something I have to talk to them about and see how much it'll cost and what they'll, what they can do for us.
It'd be kind of interesting to know. I mean, I don't know, where this will lead or where it will go, but I don't think there's anything wrong with having information.
I'll check with Fairpoint and get back to the board
To
and
make-
see what they say. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Look at it.
Any more public comments?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm back here with an update on the ferry boat basin project, and I brought some documents I'd like to share with you. We can pass these.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have with me today too Gadsden Sigri. Would you like to come on up? And as an update, we are moving forward on the project and in the process of getting the final clearances, the final surveys to establish the location of the channel. Gadsden Sigri, I'll let him give a little bio on himself and what his role in this will be, but basically he will be running the project. And also, Dan is here, or was here, is here, there he is. And what we want to do is seek your advice and input on the project, what your desires or suggestions or critiques might be, and as we move forward. And the entire scope of the project at this time is basically just the restoration of the channel, the access channel, and the basin. And with that, I'll turn it over to Gadsden.
Nice to be here. We get this thing going. We'll get some brief bio. I was raised in Franklin County. I go back several generations. Have a big interest in fishing and hunting, and our area is very unique for that. One of the best places in the world that I've been. I have a 25-year career in dredging, beach renourishment, marsh renourishment, and restoration, and have been taught a lot of ways to do it, So we get the ball rolling, we'll put up some containment levees, use weir boxes and turbidity curtains to keep all sediments and everything out of the bay. All the return water will go back into the basin and settle out in the basin. We'll restore it to project depth. Thank you.
I guess one update that was recently included with this too is the March letter from the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services that identified that there would be no closures in the oyster harvesting of Apalachicola Bay as a result of this. So any questions?
Commissioners, my recommendation is, and I've been recently informed, there's an application pending for a building permit or a site clearing permit of some kind with this, associated with the project, so I would be hesitant to get into a big question and answer at this point until you actually hear from planning and zoning and get it, brought to a head at a final hearing where you can make a decision on what to do. I don't know, you had said something about a back and forth or wanting comments on the project. I just don't think it's appropriate to comment on the project until you receive the recommendation back from the P and Z staff.
This P and Z is required for the site prep?
My
Because there is no upland construction going on at this time.
Well, I mean, if you're not doing anything, if you're doing everything in the state waters, and you just need state and federal permits, you don't have anything from us.
The only thing that would be happening upland would be the spoil, the dredge spoil containment.
Well, that's a good question, because that is, you're depositing something on the uplands, and we haven't seen, we would only respond to something, and review that, we don't have any local standards, George, for spoil disposal, but clearly in your dredging permits from the Corps or your exemptions from DEP,
DEP.
you're gonna have standards, and, we would expect you to abide by those standards.
Absolutely.
Does that go to P and Z?
It's been a long, I'll be honest, if you store dredged material uplands, then yes, we've usually issued some sort of permit for storage, so we know if it's temporary. I mean, we did it, last time one of the channels was dredged, and we've issued a permit for storage of spoil material. But I didn't know it had been submitted to anything that's been submitted yet.
Well, I was told last week.
It's not. It's not.
For the record, Dan Garlick, no. I did an inquiry with Amy the other day because we were looking at basically we got some spoil at some point we got to deal with. And so we've selected those sites. DEP's okay with it, Corps of Engineers will be okay with it. But basically it's going to be sandy soil that would be stored in the upland areas away from the water, probably at least 50 feet to meet the critical habitat zone issue there too. But beyond that point there, it's basically just storing sand.
Then my apologies, I was operating under bad information. I had been told the application had been submitted and they were going through the P and Z process, but obviously they would know that.
Yeah, and this is nothing.
Well, who told you that?
I thought I got it from Alan or Amy or somebody, or Roxy maybe,
Yeah.
one of the folks over here.
Dan, come in and talk to Amy is all.
Yeah, I made an inquiry, but we never got the point of that, actually applying for anything at that point. But this is pretty much, I think like Alan said, this has been done before on the 4th Street Canal, which Pinky might be aware of that. Also, it's been done up the river by the Corps of Engineers, and I don't know if you really require permits from them or not, but it's same kind of thing.
That's a long story.
But it's
It is a long
whether
story.
it's applied for or not, it sounds like you're still going to have to give a consideration to make a decision on a site prep permit, one way or the other.
Yeah, and then this is probably what it would be, since there's no impervious areas involved that we're creating, and it's, as long as we stay out of the critical habitat zone, we should be in pretty good shape, just like any other project that would put fill on a piece of property.
Has the Corps signed off on this project?
No, we're
So
still
you don't
working on
have your
it.
Corps permits yet?
That's correct.
So you can't do anything until you have your permission and permit from Corps?
We don't intend to do any work till we get the Corps permit.
Okay.
Y'all gonna do the East Front Channel too?
If you'll finance it, sir.
Anybody have any questions for him? Any questions? Thank you.
Well, one last question then. Are we going to be required to go through P and Z for this site prep?
You're gonna deposit spoil on the uplands, yeah. Basic development is an alteration of the property, and you're for some temporary period, you'll be, as Dan said, you'll be depositing spoil up there. And so yeah, we would issue a site prep permit or something like that.
A site prep permit, but would that require to go through P and Z?
Yeah, because it's commercial property. All your whole site there is commercial property.
Okay.
But once you get your core permit, the county does not have individual standards above and beyond the core permits. And so assuming that everything is, that you're gonna follow your core permits, I don't see a big issue, but until we get that, I can't.
And that's why I don't think it's appropriate to start prejudging and talking about what you're going to do or not do until you get an application. That's my whole point procedure.
I mean, who knows what the Corps is gonna require you all to do, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
So it would be primarily an evaluation of what the Corps requires and then?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's why we don't have these pre-application meetings. I mean, I don't want the board or you to walk away with an expectation that there's been an approval or a disapproval. At this point, there's been no application. When the application is received, the application will be considered, it will go through the usual process.
And the
But
guy-
that's
the
why
guy-
we don't have this pre-meeting to talk about an application that hasn't apparently been made yet.
So the guidance at this point would be get
Thank you for the
that,
information.
get that
None.
application
None.
Yes.
first. And is there any other feedback on the project at all whatsoever prior to?
I
Questions,
think
or-
my advice to the board is that they receive your information, thank you
Okay.
respectfully for it, but when they get an application, the time is right, then they'll respond.
Any more public comments? Any more public comments? Meeting adjourned.
Till 1:30.
Till 1:30, then we'll have a workshop.
Be back at 1:30.